This is GARIS, Masculist, MGTOW flyers. That is 2 3-page essays on the themes of Masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de GARIS. This is flyer number 231, entitled Gender Segregating the Workplace. Description. This flyer asserts that the MGTOW movement needs to help men go their own way in the workplace as well as in the home by promoting the idea of gender segregation, that is, where men and women work in different areas in the company so that men do not have to put up with femalien feminazi bullshit that so frustrates and annoys them. Those companies not listening to male employees' growing complaints risk losing them to other companies, resulting in the risk of bankruptcy. The flyer itself. Center a bit. I can't see. It's shitty software. I can't center. Just a minute. It just swings wildly one way or the other. It doesn't do it gradually. Bad software. Still haven't got it. Swing, swing. Fuck you. Okay. Gender Segregating the Workplace by Prof. Dr. Hugo de GARIS. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. MGTOWs have the possibility of escaping female nagging and negative female psychology in their personal lives, but not in their working lives. All too often, MGTOWs are forced to work with women, being aware of female nature thanks to their MGTOW knowledge, which makes putting up with femalien bullshit all the harder. More and more men are complaining to their bosses that they can't work with women, that women are a pain in the ass. They nag, they put down, they manipulate, and often quite impossible to work with. Many men are telling their bosses, quote, "Segregate men or move me to a men-only group, or I may just quit the company." Managers are hearing this complaint so often that it's becoming the norm almost. Some companies have solved this problem by segregating the genders, that is, areas for men, areas for women. Often male employees will do this spontaneously themselves, choosing desk positions away from the boring chit-chat of females so that men can get on with what they are paid to do. This spontaneous segregation is similar to what happens at parties of married couples. The men will congregate in one place and talk about things, politics, ideas, abstractions, etc. And the women will talk in another place about people, relationships, the quality of their marriages, etc. Often the men will get engrossed in what they're talking about until some femalien comes over and tries to ruin it with some such garbage as, "Guys, you're neglecting the women. Come and join us in our conversation." If there's a masculist amongst the men, he might pipe back, "Hey, femalien, don't spoil our fun. We men are enjoying this conversation. If you don't like it, then go back to your femalien group and talk about people and relationships. That's woman talk. We men here are talking about what we want to talk about, namely things, politics, ideas, abstractions. That's man talk. We men don't like you femaliens coming over to our men-only group and dictating your female standards onto us, so no thanks, we reject your offer. Or actually, we object to your dictatorial standards and say more politely to you, fuck off." Dealing with the female mind in the workplace is really tiring for men. If a guy asks another guy some straightforward question, the other guy will usually give him a straightforward and direct answer. For example, quote, "Which group topped the sales figures last month?" "Group 3. If the guy asks the woman the same question, he'll probably get no answer, while the woman thinks to herself, Why is he asking me this? Does he think my sales group is inferior to Group 3 that had the best sales figures last month? I'm not in Group 3, so if I tell him it was Group 3, will he think that I'm an inferior salesperson? Men get fed up with women's tra-la-la. That is, women's inability to give quick, efficient answers to direct, simple questions. Men feel that they are walking on female ego eggshells and are fed up with it. Resistance by men against working together with women is growing and growing, to such a point that managers are having a really hard time trying to keep the lid on the pressure cooker. In some companies, the pressure has already reached explosion point, where the men have simply taken action into their own hands, as with a trade union action, by moving their desk into a male-only space to avoid having to interact with femaliens. As more men do this, it will become increasingly known as a solution to men's growing frustration of having to put up with women's feminazi attitudes, female whining, female bickering, female gossip, female incompetence, female backstabbing. The term gender segregation in the workplace will become increasingly familiar and will influence more men to do the same in their jobs and offices. In those groups within a middle-sized or large company, which are large enough to have several groups doing similar work, it will then be possible to make comparisons between the performance levels of the male and female groups. Since men are a bit smarter than women on the average and have higher testosterone levels, making men more aggressive, dogged and persistent, it's probable, in most cases, that the male groups will outperform the female groups, which will have an effect on management's assessment of the desirability of hiring females. They will reason that women do an inferior job, as shown by these comparisons, so they will be less likely to hire women in the future for purely economic reasons. Gender segregation in the workplace also sends a clear message to women that men don't like them and don't want to work with them. These segregated men's work areas are saying to women, quote, "Your female nature is so obnoxious to men that we choose to segregate ourselves from you, the same way blacks and whites segregate themselves from each other in the cafeteria at lunchtime." This workplace segregation will put more pressure on women to be nicer to men, instead of the heavy feminazi crap that women are putting on men at the moment, that men are increasingly losing their patience with. Feminazis are now hated by most men, and are the first category of female to be rejected by men. No man wants a relationship with a misandrist, man-dumping, feminazi bitch. If the manager of a group which contains a lot of disgruntled men pushing for gender segregation is a male feminist and resists the demands of the men, then it could happen to him that his male underlings may complain to his boss, saying that he is not a good manager because he refuses to allow gender segregation, resulting in a lot of resignations of capable male employees who send emails to top management explaining why they left the company. That is, saying that they just got fed up with having to work with bitchy, manipulative, feminazi type females who are a real pain in the ass. As this kind of thing keeps happening to America's companies, management will become increasingly aware of the problem and be forced to react to it, because the economic realities that the problem tosses up will eventually manifest themselves. Those companies, particularly tech companies, that become too top-heavy with females, don't function as well, and then do not survive the competition, and eventually go bankrupt. Look at Google, which now censors, because the CEO of YouTube, which Google owns, is a Jewish feminazi. Google's reputation of being an innovative company which had a motto, "Do no harm," is now doing the opposite, and is rapidly losing its reputation, and will pay the price. The best young male graduates will not want to work for Google due to its gynocentric company psychology, and will go to more men-fair companies that listen to men's needs and wants. Google will get the reputation of being female top-heavy, gynocentric, incompetent, non-innovative, and will get hit hard by its shareholders. The company will start dying. As MGTOW and Masculist ideas spread more into the general population, especially now that the broadcast media is starting to pay real attention to their ideas, men will be a lot more assertive about expressing their desires and wants in the workplace. Those men who have absorbed MGTOW and Masculist ideas will be less tolerant of femalien feminazi attitudes towards men, expressed by female colleagues, and will choose not to work with such women and will want to gender segregate. If the company refuses to allow men to do this, then it risks bankruptcy, as the best men of the company leave it to find a less female top-heavy work environment. These men will vote with their feet and send a message to management, quote, "Take care of your men, that is your most productive workers, or you will lose them and the bottom line of your company will suffer and maybe risk going bankrupt." Male employees need to give better feedback to management about which women in their work circle are the most oppressive, the most objectionable, so that management can get a profile of the main female offenders. Men need to be more assertive about expressing to management what is bugging them in terms of women's behaviour in the workplace. Men make up half the population and a dominant proportion of the workforce, so their needs and feelings cannot be neglected. To do that is to invite disaster, as companies then risk a drop in their reputation. For example, Google, which has been taken over by feminazis, making a lot of the male engineers there very unhappy. A lot of them will leave in the next few years and express their feelings on the grapevine, resulting in lower quality graduates being willing to work for Gaggling Google, that is, a female top-heavy engineering company. Men need to be able to go to MGTOW. Men need to be able to go MGTOW at the workplace the way they are doing now in ever greater numbers in their private lives. Since work is a third of your life, men need the right to tell women to go hang and work in another room or area if women become too obnoxious, as many feminazi-influenced women now are. Correspondingly, the MGTOW movement needs to give more attention and energy to allowing men to go their own way at work as well as in the home. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de GARIS. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. YouTube channels de GARIS, Masculist, MGTOW Flyers, and de GARIS Essays. Ciao.